best coaches in the game, we really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we hit the block, helmets casket is top. You be seeing helmet after helmet, helmet after helmet. First place, second place, fifth place, eighth place, 12th place, 15, 16, 20. So many helmets, you got blurred vision, we got too many. Get the check. Oh man, shit. They got us fucked up. Army, regroup. We pledge always to have that edge. We don't fire warning shots. Competition just drop. We locked and loaded before lock. Whatever the time, yeah. Do you even correlate?
Being the best requires a willingness to outwork your competition. There's always someone smarter, faster, sharper, more naturally gifted to come around.
What up, everybody? It is Josh Thomas, aka DFS Up North from DFS Army, here with the brand new branded Unplayable Lies PGA Prop podcast, brought to you by Majors Challenge. All right, this is our brand new podcast. We named it Hitting Bombs the last couple of weeks, but my boy Geek, the boss man, the CEO of DFS Army, came in and was like, Josh, I don't like the name Hitting Bombs. So we had to come up with something new. And we have come up with the Unplayable Lies PGA pod. This is all the players that I'm playing that you probably shouldn't. And if you listened to that last week, you probably did pretty good because my core was brutal. But hey, it's a brand new week. We're at the WGC FedEx St. Jude Invitational in Memphis, Tennessee at TPC Southwind. This used to just be the regular FedEx St. Jude. They played the WGC Firestone up at Firestone CC, where our boy Taco has gone and watched a couple of times. Unfortunately, nobody wants to go to Akron, Ohio, right? So they have moved this to Memphis, and now we get the WGC FedEx St. Jude, which is awesome because we don't want to lose this is a huge fundraiser for St. Jude, which is a children's hospital, obviously, and does some really great things. So before we get going here, I want to talk about our guys, TUGolfer. TUGolfer, yeah, Blake Turner. He was last week's winner of the Majors Challenge contest, so now he gets a free month-long subscription to Sportsbet Army. Our guys over there on the Sportsbet side of DFS Army, those guys have been crushing it, right? And now with sports coming back, they can get their models going again. Really excited to see what they've got going on. Not just, now we got MLB, right? We got NBA, we got NHL, PGA picks from Statsational, right? They do some fantastic work over there. And Blake did a really nice job last week. He only had 4 cuts, and I really think that is going to be the key for Majors Challenge, right? If you want to do well over there, you really got to find, the less guys that you have miss the cut, the better. If you look at the overall leaderboard over there, you can see that it goes 4, 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, 5, 5. 6, 6, 6, just in order of guys that missed the cut. So it's exciting to see Blake, and we're gonna have a chat with Blake right now, a former college golfer down there in Texas. He's in San Antonio, and let's chat with Blake right now. All right, we are here with TUGolfer Blake Turner, the winner of our Majors Challenge contest last week, gets that free month at Sportsbet Army. Although is sports betting legal in Texas yet? I don't think so, right?
Yeah, it's not, but we have our workarounds.
We have the workarounds, right? Yeah, and the boys over there are crushing. So so let's talk a little bit about your lineup last week. Like, obviously, I think the key here again was that you only had 4 guys miss the cut, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and that's, what we're seeing so far is that, you scroll down the list, and it just essentially goes by how many guys you missed the cut. So it might be a good strategy as we're maybe going forward here, looking at, all right, is this guy there's the upside, but is he going to make the cut? And really looking at your lineup, the 4 guys that missed the cut, if you would have asked me before the week, Fleetwood, Glover, Seifert, and Power, I would have told you that all 4 of them would have made the cut.
Yeah. A couple of the guys, obviously, shout out to you. I watched the Hitting Bombs cast last week, and you put me on Duffner, who in the lowest bracket came out smelling like roses. So
yeah, that was
appreciate you on that one.
That was big. I was honestly like, I remember if you watched last week, I remember scrolling through and being like, is Jason Duffner in the field this week? I had no idea, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I lock and loaded him. Yeah, and then, I mean, my miscut, like Chase Seifert, it was an all-in play for me last week. You really liked him. I really liked him. He crushed me in DFS, but
me too.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of my miscuts. I mean, really, the thought on the lineup last week was, there's enough value on the third and fourth tiers, and I think there's going to be enough variation with those players that I don't need to get too crazy with my top 2 tiers, right? Like,
right.
I'll eat the chalk in those top 2 tiers, and a Finau and a Fleetwood being a top tier play, I thought, and then of course Fleetwood missing the cut, and then I went back to Matty Wolff with just won the tournament last year and is playing good golf coming into the event. So those are kind of no brainers for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Matt Wolff, like I don't think he had. I'm just gonna check here how many teams he was on. Obviously struggled a little bit on the weekend. But a 14 team, so a decent amount of guys went to Wolff there, but I thought that was a great call.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's playing good golf, and probably somebody that I'm going to be looking at again this week too.
Absolutely.
At the St. Jude. So playing good golf, won the event last year, he rates out well on the course. Like seemed like a good play for me. And then, all 3 guys I thought were going to be pretty chalky. Charles made a run. I actually had a futures bet on Howell to win it. And he missed that.
Sweet.
Yeah, he made a run, and it would have been pretty sweet. But really, on the if I took more of a GPP approach, or more of a where can I pivot on my bottom 2 tiers there?
Right.
Seamus had a good Thursday round. Didn't just played really poorly on Friday and missed the cut there. But all in all, pleased with how the way the week turned out.
And in your DFS week for the week, you said it was pretty good for Showdown, but not as great for 4-day.
Yeah, I mean, I was all in. I had Seifert in. I mean, I was way over the field in exposure on Seifert, and then I had him in some cash lineups too. So
I thought he was a great cash play. The guy makes a ton of cuts.
Yeah, and then I also had Glover in some cash lineups too. So it was those 2 missing the cut hurt.
Right, and we've just seen like in DFS lately, the chalk has been just getting smashed almost every single week. So I mean, for me this week, and we'll talk about it here in a little bit on the pod, but I'm going to be avoiding a lot of chalk this week. Is that kind of where you're looking at it too?
Yeah, I mean, the tough thing about St. Jude though is the top players usually perform well at this course in Memphis. So, I'm trying to think back to last year, but Brooks won it last year. And here's the other thing too, right? And you guys always talk about making stands on players. Yep. I always make stands. So Brooks is a guy that if people are I'm going to be way under the field with Brooks. One of my standing rules is kind of, if it's not a major, I'm not playing Koepka. And DJ was a full fade for me last week, and a lot of people were still on him, and it ended up being a good call. So, and DJ, I fade DJ a lot unless I just think he rates extremely well to courses. So, with the guys that I have my rules or I have my stands on, I'm going to stick firm to those. For sure. This week though, like I mentioned it earlier, Matty Wolff is playing really good golf right now. I think he had a top 25 in this tournament last year. Rory played well here last year. Rahm played well here last year. One guy that I'm gonna be interested on, and I'm gonna see what kind of salary bump gets. It's Adam Long after shooting 15 under this past weekend.
Man, the guy can make some birdies.
Golly, and he was a top 25 in the St. Jude last year too. Yep. I think, if I remember right. So, a guy that a guy who's come playing extremely good golf. Hopefully, DK keeps his salary down enough to where he's still playable.
Right. And that's the thing too, is like, yeah, it's a WGC, but we just want to play guys that are playing good golf right now. And I think that, when you look at some of the winning lineups lately, it's been just, look, Finau shows up again here, right? Playing good golf, continues to play well and does well. Yeah, he struggled on a little bit on Sunday, but he still since the restart is averaging like a ton of strokes gained in each round, even in the fourth round where he struggles. It's just not the 3 strokes gain that he's gaining in rounds 1, 2, and 3, So I think there's something to be said for playing guys that are just playing good golf right now, regardless of if they're a good course fit or not.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what DK does with Webb this week too, after missing the cut 2 weeks ago. He rates out well on this course. He's a great SGA plus EV player. Right. So, I'm hoping that they don't hike his price up too much.
He's right at 99. So he's 7th. So it's Ram, Rory, Bryson, JT, Cantlay, Webb. So way up there, but at the same time, like that, for me, I'm kind of excited about that, because I think that makes Webb single digit owned, because everybody's going to play JT and Rory and Bryson, and you know what I mean? Like, I think that's a good spot for him.
Yeah. And one of the you mentioned Bryson, right? And there's been a lot of hype about Bryson, obviously the weight gain and hitting ball 450 yards or whatever, right? So like all the hype and everything, like he's just been super chalk ever since the media really started hyping him. So like for me, that's kind of one of my rules this year has been, I'm not playing Bryson at that salary. Now it burned me when he won a few weeks ago, but it paid off really well when he missed the cut, because I knocked out a lot of the people that were on it. So that's probably a rule I'll stick to. Like I'll probably full fade Bryson this week. I'll let everybody else take him. And
that's where I'm at too.
Yeah.
And like you're as a former college golfer, right? Like, so you understand that, Bryson's really, what we've seen is he's gained a ton of distance, right? But he's putting himself in these uncomfortable wedge positions, right? So he's hitting 60 yards in and 70 yards in, as opposed to like a full wedge at 100. And it feels like that's sort of affecting him a little. Would you agree?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I almost like, especially like a golfer, like I look at that as kind of poor course management, right? Like him and his caddy, like, dude, why are you trying to hit it 450 to give yourself 60 yards in? Like, I'd rather have 110 yard full wedge shot in that you can control the spin a little bit better and the distance. But I mean, maybe he's just really honed in, or he's really been practicing that, mid-range part of his wedge game. I don't know, but
the 3/4 swing wedge.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's not a comfortable spot. And then also, I think there's like that really screws with your head when you have 60 yards. I mean, anybody who plays golf, you have 60 yards in, you make par, or for those guys, or heaven forbid you make bogey. Like that's a big ego hit.
You talk about a guy with a mental, I hate to call him a mental midget, but like he struggles sometimes out there. But a guy that's really in the past has struggled a ton out there, and now has seemed to mature quite a bit, at least in his win, is Jon Ram. Like he seems to be really on the, I make a bad shot, I'm moving on, which is good to see, because I mean his poor attitude and cost him a Players Championship last year.
Yeah, I think Ram's a guy who, like, I think he took the quarantine, like he worked harder during the quarantine than a lot of other guys. I know, like I followed him on social media, and he was posting workouts and had physical trainer working with him. And like I know a lot of these guys took weeks off, or months off, or they're saying, hey, I didn't touch a club. And while that can be good to some extent, it can also come out rusty. And I think for Ram, he's taking care of his body a little bit better this year than maybe he has in previous years, and it's paying off for him.
For sure. Well, hey, I appreciate you popping on here. Congrats on the win, and we'll see if we can go 2 for 2 next week. All right.
Yeah, for sure, Josh. Appreciate it.
All right. Cheers, buddy.
Bye.
All right. All right, we are back, right? Thanks to Blake for coming on and chatting with us. And if you win the contest this week, again, it's www.majorschallenge.com/DFS. DFS Army, you can come on and hop on and chat it up with me next week. So let's talk a little bit about the course here. We are at TPC Southwind. Like I said, this course used to host the FedEx St. Jude, which was a full field event. But now that we are at a WGC, we have only 78 golfers in the field, right? This is a par 70 at 72.37. It's actually, I just checked today, it's playing at 72.77, I believe. They added a little bit of distance this year from last year, but really just on one tee box. It is a Ron Pritchard design with Hubert Green and Fuzzy Zeller. We get Bermuda grass on the greens, which we haven't seen in a little bit. We've been on a lot of bent and POA mix the last couple of weeks, but we are back on Bermuda. Zoysia fairways, which all the pros love. If you've never played a Zoysia fairway, it is like you get a perfect lie every single time. And that's going to be really beneficial here if you hit the fairways, right? Because these green sizes of 4,300 square feet are pretty small. So if you're able to put the ball in the fairway, you're going to be able to attack these greens for essentially a perfect lie every time, unless you're in a divot, right? So there's going to be a big emphasis, I think, this week on strokes gained approach, and really in that 125 to 175 range. That is going to be the range of shots that you're going to see a lot of. You're not going to have a lot of approach shots from outside of 200 yards, right? So a lot of these, like, 8-9 wedge shots are what we're going to be looking for. The rough here is Bermuda grass as well, but it is only 2.5 inches, not feet. That'd be crazy, right? 2.5 inches. So there's not a super big penalty for missing the fairways here. You can definitely hit the greens, get up and down from the fairways or from the roughs, and it's not that big of a penalty, right? What you run into a little bit of trouble with is you can get blocked by the trees just based on the routing. So it can really be a bombs away course. And again, we've seen guys, a bunch of different guys get it done in a bunch of different ways here. So there's not really one set key, but what we do know is that you're going to have to putt well. This tends to be a little bit of a birdie fest at times, right? Brooks got to 16 last year. We've seen DJ shoot 19 here when he won. Berger was in that 17, 18 range. So you're going to have to putt and make some birdies. That doesn't mean necessarily that you have to be a great putter, but you got to be able to putt a little bit on Bermuda here if you are going to do well. So how this is going to work in our new format this week is the 4-balls format. All right. So it's going to be 4-4-4. So how it works is I'm going to give you guys 4 plays, 4 fades, and 4 punts. The 4 plays and 4 fades are all going to come in from, the 10K, 9K, 8K, and 7K range. And then I'm going to give you 4 punts that I really like, priced 7K or below. And as we kind of go through and start talking about these guys, before we do that, we're going to take a little bit of a look at the pared down research station from our boy Taco at DFS Army. Really, like, this is, I can't stress this enough, that I can't do what I do. I would never be able to play DFS golf without Taco. There's tons of other stat sites, things like that out there, but what we put together here at DFS Army for our subs is really, really incredible, in my opinion, by aggregating all this information in one place and letting you see it side by side with golfers, sortable. Like, it really is a true, I don't want to say work of art, because I don't want Taco's head to get too big, but it really is. It's a work of art. It's something that, like I said, I couldn't do what I do every single week without this information. So Taco set me up with a pared down version of the WGC FedEx St. Jude research station to give you guys kind of a look at what it looks like week to week and what our subscribers here at DFS Army don't. If you're not a subscriber, right, you can use that code up north for 20% off the rest of your life for a DFS Army subscription. But everything, again, is in one place, whether it's Draftkings pricing, FanDuel pricing, and the scoring is a little bit different. You can come through and see all of the golfers, all of their recent form. You want your recent form expanded? Boom, spread it out. Last week when we showed you guys this, I was able to give you guys the full version. And this week, I've got the word from the boss that we're not giving out the goods for free anymore, right? So if you want to get the full version with our projections, our, the odds, everything like that, the fantasy scoring stats, which is one of my favorite stats that I use every single week, you're going to have to become a DFS Army sub. But you want to look at, who's hitting greens recently, right? Boom, you come in and score. Like, you think that greens and regulation is going to be important this week, which I do think it's going to be pretty important. Xander Schauffele is leading the way, 74.3. You can also see the long term, right? So is somebody like really performing well above their long-term average, right? And you can say like, okay, Xander 74, 72, Connor 73, 73. Bryson's a little bit higher, right? 72, 69. So if there's a big difference in there, and especially in things like birdies are better gained, you can start to see like, oh, okay, Tyrrell Hatton, maybe he's really performing above his baseline. One of the guys that, I'm going to talk about as maybe a fade this week is Gary Woodland. And if you look over here, we can see that, last 50 rounds, 0.32 strokes gained putting. The last 10 rounds, 1.12. So he's seen a big time increase in his putting this week, right? And that, or in the last couple of weeks. And, traditionally, Gary is a guy that can't put it into the ocean, right? So what's going on there? Is it just like, is he running hot right now? Is he going to come back to earth? I think that if he comes back to earth, particularly at high ownership, like we project him this week, that could be a spot where we get off a guy that's highly owned and really get some leverage on the field. We look and you can see like, oh, on Bermuda, not that good. And maybe there's somebody that puts a little bit better on Bermuda, right? We can see that Patrick Cantlay is a little bit higher there over, his baseline. Hatton, another guy that, could possibly have some struggles on these greens. Streelman, well above his baseline. Is there anybody that's under their baseline? Ryan Palmer's really putting poorly lately and maybe is a little bit better Bermuda putter. Same with Sergio, who I do like this week and is, really striping the ball and really playing better around the green since this return. So again, our research station, like I said, we got all, the showdown tools. None of this stuff is loaded yet as Taco's running the computers right now and getting everything in, but it is a great source of information. Everything is in one place. And it is something that, like I said, I couldn't do what I do on a weekly basis without it. So back to our four balls. We're going to talk about who my favorite plays are and who my favorite fades are. And at 10K, my favorite play is Rory Mcilroy, right? Rory just absolutely crushes these WGC events. I think that it's really going to benefit his off the tee game here with that short rough. Same for the guy that I'm fading in Bryson, but he's got a 92% field rank on no-cut events, meaning that in no-cut events in our database, we can see that Rory beats 92% of the field on average. Average, right? That's insane. And actually, a little sneak, like Jon Ram is 94. And they played the same amount of events. But so yeah, Rory really is dominant in these no-cut events. And I think, it's hard to get a read on narratives, but it feels like he's due, right? We've seen some of these studs win. And that's the other thing about WGCs is that as Blake talked about earlier in that pod is that it's studs that win here. And it just essentially only studs, right? It's guys like DJ, it's guys like Decky, it's guys like Rory and Patrick Reed and Brooks Koepka, and these top end players are the ones who win these events. And I guess it really shouldn't come as a surprise to us that these top end guys win, because these events are made for these top end guys, right? So I really love Rory this week, and I think that he's actually probably going to come in a little bit under owned. He's priced between Ram and DeChambeau, and both should be very high owned this week. Now, this is a WGC, right? This is a no cut event. So with that, you're able to get there's only 78 players in the pool. So there is some studs down in the 6K range. So you can sort of fit a couple of guys in here. We don't have to worry about guys missing the cut. So it's maybe Rory gets up a little bit, but I really think that Bryson's going to be at like 23. I think that Ram's going to be at 24, 25%, and Rory's going to come in somewhere around 15, 16%. And what we've seen lately is that the chalk has bombed. Granted, we haven't seen a no-cut event, but the chalk has really bombed. And you give me Rory 4 rounds in a course like this that he really dominated on last year and struggled on Sunday, which is sort of a thing similar to Finau with him. I love Rory this week. And the guy that I'm going to look at fading is really Bryson. From an anecdotal perspective, just like if you've watched golf and I say like, oh, the rough's not very long. he could, make a lot of sense. My issue with Bryson is kind of like what me and Blake talked about back earlier in the pod here, is that he seems like he's so obsessed with hitting it a long ways that he puts himself in these uncomfortable situations. I think he's going to be really high owned, and maybe the highest of anybody over 10K. And just with the way things have been going this year, I'm all about fading the chalk here. So for me, if ownership projections sort of play out how I see them right here on Monday night, Bryson's going to be an easy fade for me. And I don't know what, like, that could absolutely come back and bite me in the ass. Could Bryson win this week? Yes. Earlier this morning, like Monday morning, I'm like, this is all Bryson. But as you sort of dig in, see, he's actually, played here 3 times, struggled a little bit. The new beefy Bryson is not the same golfer that we've seen in the past, but for me, it's going to be, I'm really going to be looking at a fade here for Bryson. So in the 9K range, I never get this guy right. I apologize if, I'm probably going to, he's going to be a guy that is going to screw you guys now, but I never get Xander right. But man, he's 3rd in the field in strokes gain approach. He crushes these no-cut events. He putts well. He does everything well. I'm going to have to play Xander. He might be chalk this week. And that's probably going to be some chalk that I'm going to eat. He just makes so much sense here. The other guy that I was really staring at in that 9K range is Webb Simpson. I think that he's going to be really low owned and provide a leverage play. But more on him in our cheat sheets for our VIPs. My 9K fade, Danny Berger. I got burned by Berger in a WGC once. If you guys haven't played golf or DFS golf for a long time, about 3 or 4 years ago, Berger was injured. He showed up to Firestone, which is a great course for him. And, it was super cheap, super low owned, was a great leverage play. At that point in time, what you could do was, if you played in a WGC, if you hit one shot and walked off with the WD, you got the check for 50,000. So Berger, we didn't have great reporting. Twitter wasn't as great back then. And Berger walked up to the tee, hit a tee ball, withdrew, walked off the course and went home. And if you have a withdraw in an event where everyone gets a 6 of 6, you're probably dead. So it was, I always have a little bit of a grudge against Danny Berger, but really, I just think that he's overpriced based on played really well. He's got 2 wins here. He did miss his last cut, and statistically, he's just going to come back to earth with his putter at some point. And if his putter comes back to earth, he's gaining almost a stroke right now. Like, if his putter comes back to earth, he is dead in the water, especially at this price tag and ownership. This is an easy fade for me. Like I said, I do like Bryson. And when I say fade, I want to make that clear, right? That I'm not saying that I'm going to have 0 Danny Berger. I am the king of making strong stands on guys. I love having a very tight player pool and really trying to smash week in and week out. But with that, right, you can have weeks where you take zeros, right? Or you don't win anything. And I just think that's the best way to play DFS. And that's for another day. But, I'm going to be well under the field. So maybe if I build 150 lineups, I have 3% Berger, or I might have 0, right? It just really depends on kind of where I'm at. And if you want to pick my brain more on that, 20% off VIP membership. Use that code up north. As we get into the 8Ks, Billy Ho. I have loved Billy Horschel this week. He just has unreal history here. The guy's crushed this event. Love the price tag. I think his ownership's going to be depressed because he got priced up. At 7,500, Billy Ho would have been absolutely chalk city this week, right? But at that 8,500 price tag, like, he's going to be pretty under-owned. So he's a guy that really does a lot of things well, and he putts like crazy at times. So getting back on Bermuda, I think, is really going to benefit him here. He's going to go nuts. I really like Billy Ho for a top 10 this week. I will be hammering that once the odds come out. And Vegas really likes him this week too, which is interesting, right? I was all ready to go this morning to fire on Billy Ho at 60-1. And Vegas came out and priced him at what, 40 to 1. And there just wasn't enough value in there for me. I'll look at some top 10 odds. My AK fade, like we talked about earlier, is a guy that I just, again, like, these guys can't keep putting well every week, especially when they are traditionally bad putters. So I will go to my grave believing that Gary Woodland is a terrible putter and that he is not going to be able to keep going at, he's over a stroke gained on average over his last 10 rounds. That putter is going to come back to earth at some point, and it hurts me because I love Woodland. I want to see him do well, but it seems like Chalk City big time bust. So for me, Woody's a fade this week. 7K play. I know Blake talked about him. I love Matthew Wolff this week too. I just think he's playing so well. He's so good in all aspects of his game. The putter's been good, not like Gary Woodland good, but he's been a traditionally pretty good putter, right? And I think he's going to relish this opportunity to compete against the best of the best. He's had some close calls lately, been playing well, and just hasn't been able to get it done. And at his price tag, I love me some Wolff at 7,900 this week. My 7K fade is a guy that's got great history here, Ian Poulter, but his game is just shitty. Like, for lack of a better term, he's not very good. So Ian Poulter, he can score like crazy, which makes me a little concerned, but it's just all putter. And on these small greens, his strength with the putter, I think, is going to be a little bit taken away, right? And he's not a good iron player, and he looks very similar to Gary Woodland this week. Apparently, I forgot to switch that picture out. So if he shows up and can strike the ball like Woodland, right? Like, I love Poulter, but I just don't see that happening. His iron play is so poor. My below 7K punts, love Ches Reavie. Great history here. He's playing well. He got rid of the PXG, right? So you can if you're listening, you can play him again, right? I just don't know what it is about PXG, but guys get on PXG and they suck. So Reavie, since the return, playing very well. I love it at 6,700. Bernd Wiesberger, top 30 player in the world, played really, really well last week. He's finally adjusting to coming over. I think he's a great value at 6,500. Christian Bazoonho finally had a big week. The guy's a world-class iron player. Love him at 6,900. My concern is that he struggles a little bit off the tee, mostly just because he's short, right? So if he's able to, find some fairways, he's going to be in good shape. So I'm less concerned about off the tee, but we do know that off the tee does correlate to scoring in these no-cut events. So it's something to look into. And finally, maybe a guy that you haven't heard of, but the number 78 player in the world is Bobby Mcintyre. He's a stud young Euro. Hasn't played since the return to golf, which is a little concerning, right? But he was 6th at last year's Open Championship. I think he's got a ton of upside to really play well at almost next to no ownership. Like, really the only guys that are going to play him are people who do play some Euro DFS golf. So there's a small group of us that know what's going on over in Europe, and he could be definitely a great punt play for anyone this week. So those are my 4 punts. So again, in review, right? My play at 10K is going to be Rory, right? Let's go back here. My play at 10K is going to be Rory. My play at my fade at 10K, it will be Bryson, right? My play at 9K, Xander. My fade, Berger. Play at 8K, Horschel. 8K fade, Gary Woodland. And at 7K, oopsies, we've got Wolfie as my play and Poulter as my fade. Again, if you can see a trend here, it's that I'm hoping that guys who are putting above their baseline really come back to earth. All right, and then my punts, as you know. So if we take a look here, let's head back to Majors Challenge and see what those groups look like this week. I'm excited to build a lineup over there where I don't have to worry about guys missing the cut. This is going to be a little bit different strategy here, right? So if you have not played Majors Challenge before, you get to choose 3 golfers from Group A, 3 from Group B, 4 from Group C, and 2 from Group D, for a total of 12 golfers. And each group, there is 10% of the field is in Group A, 20%. The next 20% is in Group B. The next 30% is in Group C. And the final 40% are in Group D. And they are arranged by their official world golf ranking. So if we go to Group A, right, this is going to be your studs. So for me, like I said, love me some Rory this week. So we'll get him into my lineup, right? 10 of 10 cuts. That's impressive. I love, it's hard to just not play Ram here, right? And then I'm going to look for a little bit of upside on my last. If I was just, I think those are the three best plays, right? JT, Rory, Ram. But I'm going to try to get a little bit different this week and play a guy that maybe less people will be playing in Webb Simpson. Patrick Reed's probably the lowest one. Maybe Dustin Johnson coming off 80, 78 in his last couple of rounds. As we go to the next group, right? Obviously, I'll put my boy Schauffele in there. I talked with Blake, right, about guys just playing good week after week. I love Finau. And then Cantlay is probably the best player in that entire range. I'll put Hatton as my alternate. Oh, I didn't choose an alternate here. We'll just throw DJ in case somebody withdraws. In Group C, right, talked about fading Berger. Love the Berger fade. I love Billy Ho this week, but let's kind of go through and see. Jazzy Janawantanon. Nope, nobody's playing him. Nope. Again, some of these guys that are super cheap on DK, like Wiesberger, you're not going to see priced up here. It's going to be hard for me to not play Victor Hovland in this group. And then I'm going to go get a little crazy and play Sergio. Does that got me opening one more starter? I like all those guys. Maybe Stenson in his first return. I think what I'm going to do, Lee Westwood is not in the tournament, so do not play him. I think what I'm going to play Ches. I know that my boy Ricky's up there, but I kind of like the upside of Ches. And then we'll put Bazoonho in. All right, and then Group D. Typically, you have to play the scrubs of the scrubs here, but we got some pretty good golfers in this group this week. Oh, damn it. Poulter's in Group D. All right, well, I'm going to play Wolf for sure. I think Bubba Watson, he had a top 10 here last year. I think he makes some sense this week. I like Bobby Mack. All right, I'm gonna play. Gosh, Hadwin's been good too. I'll play Hadwin in this group. All right, and we'll put Jolie D as my. Yeah, I feel pretty good about that lineup, boys and girls. I think that's gonna be the winner this week. I'll come on and interview myself. That'd be great. Put my team name in here. DFS up north. All right, we're in. We got 7 teams in. Somebody entered while I was watching this. So thanks to everybody who has joined already. My boy Larry Barbie, I love you, buddy. He is a long time member of DFS Army. Love seeing him in there too. So that's what I've got this week. Again, if you are not a DFS Army subscriber, please join us, right? 20% off VIP membership. That is up north. You get everything, not just PGA. You get baseball, you get NBA, you get NFL when we come around to that. And it's everything for one low price. That is arguably the best value of anything on the internet. Make sure you join us over at majorschallenge.com, majorschallenge.com/DFS Army, and that gets you into the listener league this week. If you win, you get a free month to Sportsbet Army, and you get to come on here and tell me how much of an idiot I am this week. I had some Twitter trolls that last week, so hey, I can't remember what your Twitter handle was. You had like 3 followers, buddy, but hey, come on in, get in, win this contest, prove that you're better than me, and then come on and tell me I'm an idiot, right? So again, I appreciate this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the podcast, and we will chat soon. Thanks, guys.